Welcome to the show. I'm Patti Gribow. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. As Californians continue to work to recover from the recent economic turbulence and rebuild their finances, financial knowledge has never been more important. Sound personal financial advice is especially in demand among individuals who are retired or planning to retire. Joining me today is Dan Ohlwiler, Chief Financial Officer of Sterling Financial Advisors, an independent financial and retirement planning firm based in Mission Viejo, California. When we come back.
The Patti Gribow Show, educating viewers about today's important life matters. Leaders who are making an impact on the global community. Entrepreneurs, politicians, authors, business executives. Insight into how to better your life.
Welcome back. Well, thank you. Thank you. Today we're discussing your financial future. Joining me is an advocate for you, Dan Ohlwiler, sometimes referred to as the retirement professor. And he's the author of Protecting Your Retirement from the Financial Perfect Storm. You've heard his financial expertise on KFWB, and as a result of his professional accomplishments, Orange Coast Magazine recognized him as a 5-star wealth manager in 2010. Please join me in welcoming Dan to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Patti. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here, especially in these economic times. We're going to learn a lot today, and I like that.
Oh, well, great.
You're sometimes referred to as the retirement professor. How did you come up with that name?
Well, I didn't go to college to get the retirement professor name. A lot of my clients over the years felt like the expertise that I've provided them gave me the nickname of the retirement professor simply because of the work that we've done for them. So it's kind of a nickname that my clients have given me, but it's kind of stuck over the years.
I think it's great. I think it's great because obviously they're relying on you and they know they can come back and you keep apprised of everything that's up to date. They can come back to you because they have a 100% confidence. And you're obviously very passionate about that, what you do, because you're working closely with families, not just the individuals, but the families in creating the financial plan. How did you get involved in this area of business?
Well, over 30 years ago, I got started in the life insurance business. As a young kid out of college, I got into the life insurance business, but actually I felt like I wanted to do more than just life insurance. I wanted to set up financial plans for people, help them plan for their retirement. And so in 1984, I kind of broke away from just life insurance and started doing public seminars, public workshops on retirement planning and building my practice in that regard.
And those workshops are really important for people to attend, aren't they?
Well, it allows them to kind of get to know me a little bit.
Right.
You know, the information's great, but you kind of need to find an advisor that you feel comfortable with, that you can trust, that has the same philosophy that you do. And these seminars allow people to do that.
Which is great, because people just don't go to a financial advisor one time, or at least you shouldn't. When there's a change in your life, you need to be able to feel confident you can go back, correct?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I just had a gentleman sit down with me. His wife was fairly ill with cancer, fairly young, 59 years old.
Wow.
Had to retire because his wife went on disability. I just got an email the other day that she had passed away. And so his retirement plan all of a sudden changed drastically. And so it's not a one-time shot that you're working with your advisor. Hopefully you're setting up a long-term relationship.
Right, and you have to be very careful and very specific when you're looking for a partner in the financial world, such as yourself. And you're highly credentialed. What should people look for?
Well, I think the critical thing is finding somebody with the same philosophy that you have. As we move through our retirement years, we tend to be a little bit more conservative. And so you want to find an advisor that has the same investment philosophy, the same planning philosophy as you do, rather than getting somebody that might be a little bit more aggressive or some things that you may not want in your financial plan. You want to find the credentials are great, but many times people have a lot of initials after their name and they risk people's money and lose it. You want to be able to find somebody that you can trust, that has the same type of philosophy that you do in the planning process.
Right, so you don't want to go to someone who gives everyone the same cookie cutter plan.
They're
because
individual
that's not
plans.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. They're individual plans. And so you want to be able to structure your plan for your needs and your family's needs rather than just getting the same stock or mutual fund that everybody else is getting.
Now, before the show, we were talking about your acronym, which I love, SWAN, which I think is a very unique approach to retirement. Can you share that with our audience, please?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I use this in my workshops. I use the acronym of SWAN, S-W-A-N. And what that stands for is I want my clients to sleep well at night. Whatever they can do to have them sleep well at night is what we ought to be doing. And so I use the acronym of SWAN, wanting my clients to sleep well at night.
That's great. Turn off the news and just listen to you. That's what we should do, right?
Well, we hope so. We hope so.
That's what we should do. I know you give your seminars, and you in your book, you're offering to give your book free to those that get in contact with you, correct?
Yeah, we offer the book is the name of the book is Protecting Your Retirement from the Perfect Financial Storms.
Right.
But the subtitle says 5 Steps to Avoid a Retirement Tsunami. You really want to be careful that when you get into retirement that you protect that retirement plan against these economic tsunamis that seem to come into play. We offer that book to anyone who comes in contact with us through a seminar, through an appointment, even logging on to our website. We're happy to send that to them.
And how can someone just get in touch with you? Just through calling? And
yeah, they can call our offices or go to our website. Be happy to send that out to them. Be happy to kind of review those 5 steps with them, so to speak.
And I want to talk about those 5 steps and talk about pension planning and a lot more when we come back. So hold your thoughts, okay? Great. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will discuss all kinds of wonderful things to help you through your retirement with Dan Ohlwiler. Welcome back to our show. Joining me today is Dan Ohlwiler, Chief Financial Officer of Sterling Financial Advisors. Their firm specializes in designing personalized retirement plans for individuals and families who are already retired or planning to retire in the near future. They take the conservative approach to their clients, which seems to fit well with all those people who are looking for the security and peace of mind they want in retirement. Really, really good stuff. You describe that through our journey, it's really 3 phases: accumulation, protection, and distribution. But how do you assess what an individual needs in their investment planning to protect them from having their retirement assets at risk?
Well, to be honest with you, Patty, I kind of specialize in retirement planning. I'm not as much concerned about their accumulation phase as I am their protection phase.
Okay.
When what I call accumulation is during your working years. You're accumulating your assets in your 401k and other investments. As you prepare to retire is when you ought to be moving into that protection phase. We saw that in 2008 when people were getting ready to retire. The market crashed, and all of a sudden their 401ks went, they dropped 50%. And so as you move into that protection phase and into retirement, you need to be transitioning into that protection phase to protect those assets that you've accumulated all those years.
Right, and like you said, the people who come to see you, they may be ready to retire, but then something will happen, and they have to have a plan in place, come to you to regroup, if you will.
Well, I had an existing client, to be honest with you, that actually was planning to retire last year, but because of the market crash, he felt like he had to work another 2 or 3 years just to try to recoup what he had lost in the market. And so, again, it's not so much, I've always felt like it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And there's a difference between how much you make and how much you keep.
And that's getting more and more and more difficult to do these days.
Absolutely.
It's getting much more difficult. You know, my mom has enjoyed, my dad, who's in heaven right now, his GE pension plan for many years. But today, pensions are far and few between. How does one do income planning in what you call a pensionless society?
Well, my dad's a retired fireman. He worked for the county of Los Angeles. He's got a pension plan. Many of the so-called depression babies that grew up during the Depression or just after the Depression worked for 30, 40 years for a company. They ended up getting a guaranteed pension for the rest of their lives, the rest of their spouses' lives. And now we're kind of gone what I call a pensionless society. Corporations have actually transferred the comfort of a pension plan back to the individual through a 401k plan. And so their pension, quote unquote, income is going to be dependent upon how the market does. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to set up a secure, take those assets and set up a secure income stream, kind of like a pension. Have a secure income no matter what the market does that'll give you the peace of mind and quality of life that you want in retirement.
Right, quality of life, that's what we all want. We all want quality of life. You know, I really, really enjoyed reading your book, Protecting Your Retirement for the Financial Perfect Storm. What a great way to put it right now. You have a multitude of suggestions in there and a lot of calls to action, if you will. Why did you name it the Financial Perfect Storm?
Well, if you remember that movie, there was, you know, a fishing boat can generally withstand one storm. But what happened in this movie is there was 3 or 4 storms that came together, sunk the boat, killed all of the crew. Well, that's what's happening in society today. There's a lot of different economic storms that are hitting us right now. Debt, unemployment, what I call a dysfunctional Congress, okay?
Amen.
A bipolar stock market. All these things are coming together to affect our retirement. And unless we address these and setting up a strong foundation for our income, we can be whipsawed back and forth by a bipolar stock market, and it affects our retirement for the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we boomers, we have a little double-edged sword going on. I really believe that because we're supporting and taking care of our parents, or at least guiding them, and we also have our children.
Sure. Unfortunately, the statistics tell us there's about 10,000 baby boomers that are retiring each year for the next decade. They're going to go from paying into Social Security to receiving Social Security. They're going to go from paying into Medicare to receiving Medicare. And that's why it's so critical that we have to depend probably upon ourselves. We're becoming more self-sufficient than we cannot depend on the government. We all know that Social Security is in a problem right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, whether or not it'll be there for those of us that are still working, I don't know. But we have to become more self-independent and be able to rely on our own plans than we can for the government. And so those things that we do, that we can set up a secure foundation, will give us the peace of mind and quality of life that we want.
Right. When did you see everything start to really take a change?
In 2000, when
2000.
the dot-com bubble burst. You know, everybody had a great ride during the latter part of the 90s. The dot-com bubble burst, and all of a sudden, people didn't realize that their 401ks were exposed as much as they were. Okay, so we had a couple of years there. We had a nice run during 2000s. In the mid 2000s,
Right.
we had the market got up to 14,000.
That was great.
It was great. Why didn't everybody sell?
Right.
Because we get greedy. We get greedy, and so we thought it was going to go to 18,000, and so rather than going to 18,000, it dropped down to 6,600. Now we're back up to 11, 12,000 in the Dow Jones. Okay.
And it's volatile.
It's very volatile, and many of what I find that people want in retirement is to have peace of mind, not being
Right.
whipsawed back and forth by these financial storms, so to speak.
And they're happening more often, as you had said. And in your book, you talk about tax-infested accounts. I'd never heard of that. You refer to IRAs, 401ks, the 403bs. I can't keep up with all this. They're very confusing to people. Can you put these accounts in simple terms?
Well, I call them tax-infested accounts simply because these are accounts that the government allows us to put money away over a period of time. We get to defer them off our taxes, but at some point the government says you have to start taking that money out. That's age 70 and a half. It's called our required minimum distributions. The unfortunate thing is these accounts are going to be taxed for the rest of our lives, the rest of our spouses' lives if they're still alive, and if we leave this to our children, it's going to be taxed for the rest of their lives. So it's what I call a taxed forever account, okay?
It is.
And so exit strategies is what I call them, coming out of these types of accounts, getting them to where you're not going to be taxed for the rest of your life is a critical part of planning. Taking the positive approach, or the proactive approach, so to speak, of getting an exit strategies for these accounts, paying the minimum amount of taxes that the government requires, is going to be critical in being able to enjoy these accounts in the future.
So, you know, a person has to have a financial advisor today. They really do, because
Well, they
it's
have
not.
to have me.
Well, yeah, they
you
have
know?
to have you. They do. They really need to.
Right.
We need to, because it's not just enough to think about giving your money to having your children have money, and it's you have to figure out how to plan, like you said, to cruise into retirement and have a nice retirement, but also the taxation that goes along
Well,
with
it's
it.
unfortunate that people don't really understand the tax problems that are created in these retirement accounts. Publication 590 from the IRS, it's about 125 pages of very small type, control all of the distribution planning options that you have available to these. People don't understand that if a child inherits one of these accounts, they have to start taking distributions immediately. They don't wait till age 70 and a half. If they don't, there's a 50% penalty on that if they don't take that distribution.
Wow.
So there's a lot of planning opportunities that you can utilize that minimizes the taxes over your lifetime, over your children's lifetime, if they want to take advantage of these opportunities.
Boy, I'm glad you read that small print. I'm glad I'll come to you, that I don't have to do this. And let's say I want to come and talk to you. How can our viewers get in touch with you?
Well, there's a variety of ways. We do public workshops in our areas. Our website has our workshop calendar set up in our schedule. They can also call our office at any time. We'll be happy to sit down with them. Generally, we offer a consultation for those that come to our workshop. If they would like to call in without coming to our workshop, we'll be glad to sit down and talk to them as well. We'll provide them with the book, Protecting Your Retirement from the Financial Perfect Storm.
That's great.
And that'll give them the opportunity to kind of look at these 5 steps of setting up a safe and secure retirement.
That's great. That's great. Can't wait to talk more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're enjoying the show. I am. We're having a most intriguing conversation with Dan Ohlwiler regarding retirement planning in this day of economic uncertainty. Dan is an approved member of the National Ethics Association, an organization verifying and dedicated to be able to make sure that people uphold the ethical standards in their practice. Dan, before the break, we were talking about distribution of assets from your tax-infested accounts. And let's talk about how individuals can really obtain security and take control of their assets.
Well, the tax-infested accounts obviously are retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs, those types of plans. A lot of times people would like to start moving into more conservative areas other than mutual funds, which are provided in 401ks. There's a provision in I mentioned the tax code earlier in the broadcast that you can actually go into your retirement account at age 59 and a half. You can actually take control of those funds and transfer them into an IRA. You then have the opportunity to invest them the way that you want versus the way that the 401k has. Okay, and so you can actually take control of your retirement accounts even though you're still working.
Wow.
It's an opportunity for people to really, as I mentioned, move into that protection phase when they turn 60, 61, take control of those assets, invest them very conservatively so they're not whipsawed back and forth by a very volatile market.
Right, right. That is interesting. That's really terrific news. But what I'm interested in as well are the people that are unemployed. And you were recently quoted in TheStreet.com regarding 5 ways the underemployed save for retirement. And with so many people in the unique position of not making ends meet, they also have to prepare for their future. I understand some people are dipping into their 401ks.
Yeah,
is that smart?
They're really in between a rock and a hard place, to be honest with you. They see their bills mounting up, they're facing right in their face, you know, and the only assets they really have is their retirement accounts, their 401ks. They're not retired yet, and so they have the temptation really to go in and grab those funds to pay mortgage payments, to pay bills, do whatever. Unfortunately, there's a penalty from the IRS. They have to claim it as income, and then they're basically cannibalizing their retirement plan. And but they really are between a rock and a hard place. It's difficult to really tell them not to do it, yet at the same time, they have to understand what it's going to mean for the future.
You know, yesterday I was listening to the radio, and I heard this couple talking that they had both had combined incomes of 6 figures. They were realtors. They're now unemployed, have not received a paycheck in 2 years, and they had to make a decision from one day to the next whether to eat or to pay a bill.
Yeah, and you take that situation where they might have $200,000 or $300,000 in an IRA 401k, and they're saying, okay, do we leave it there or do we eat?
Right.
It's a very difficult. It puts them between a rock and a hard place. And unfortunately, it does impact our retirement for the future, but you've got pressing bills today.
Exactly.
So it's really unfortunate for these types of people that have to plan for the future, yet have bills today that they have to pay for.
Exactly. Now, you have also said something that people in their 50s can recoup.
Yeah, there's a provision in the IRS code that if you're over age 50, you can add a little bit more to your IRA contributions each year. Some people take advantage of that, and if you're not in that position and you're unemployed right now, you might be able to take advantage of that when you become reemployed, and now you can kind of do some makeup payments, so to speak, in the years to come.
But people need to come to you or someone like you to read that
No,
tiny
they need
print.
to come to me.
To read that tiny
That's right.
print.
That's right.
Because you
That's
read
right.
all that print. Oh my gosh. And I don't even know 401k, 403b, whatever. It's amazing.
There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. And Roth IRAs, when is it beneficial to convert a Roth IRA?
You know, there was a big push in 2010 to convert everything to Roth because the IRS allowed you, or the government allowed you, to spread the taxable income that takes place when you convert to Roth over 2 years. So they called 2010 the year of the Roth. Well, we're past 2010, and so a lot of people ask me whether or not it still makes sense. Bottom line is you're paying taxes now for generations later, all right? Whether or not it's a right idea will depend upon whether or not you need income from this account, whether or not you just want this account to go to your children or your grandchildren. A lot of that is a personal situation as to whether or not it makes sense to convert to Roth. but it's still a very viable, as we talked about before, exit strategy for these tax-infested accounts.
Right, exit strategy is so important. And we boomers are all preparing for retirement. We want to really ride off in the sunset, and we're not going to go down easy. What's the most important thing that people can do when planning for retirement?
Well, it's a funny thing, because my folks' generation were a generation of savers. Our generation is a generation of spenders. And so the critical thing is to really sit down and figure out what you need in retirement. How much is there really needs versus wants in retirement? You need to really determine what that number is. And as you get that number in place, then what are the assets that we had to generate that income to do that? Obviously, we're hoping that Social Security will be around. Many times it's not going to be, and so we become self-dependent upon our own assets. Whether or not Social Security will be there or not, we don't know.
Right. We don't know. And most of us want to leave our wealth to our children. If we have anything left, we want to leave it to our children. What happens, this is a sticky question, I know, but what happens when the good child inherits a retirement account and you compare that to the not so reliable child?
Well, it's interesting, Patty. Over the years, I've worked with a lot of different clients. They've had a lot of number of children that they've had. I've done an unofficial survey, so to speak, with my clients. And my unofficial survey is that if you have 3 or more children, you have to have 3. If you have 3 or more children, one of them's an idiot. Not in regards to mental things, but they just don't know how to handle money.
Right.
And so when you leave lump sums of money to these kids, what happens? They go see, the new Corvette that they wanted or the new boat that they wanted, and they end up spending this retirement in a matter, the average is 2.5 years that the average inheritance is spent. And so if you leave it to a guy who has 2 kids and a house and a wife and a mortgage, he can kind of understand what life is all about. You leave it to a 28-year-old guy who's not really got a job and he sees his Porsche there, odds are that money's going to be gone. And so setting up a distribution plan for your children sometimes is benefit for them in the long run. I've said in my workshops, I have no desire whatsoever of leaving lump sums of money to my kids, because all they're going to do is spend it. But if I can set up an income stream for them with these assets, help them on a monthly basis over their lifetime, then I've been able to do something. And so, it's good kids, bad kids isn't always the same in every family, but many times you have to protect kids from kids. Okay.
You have to, sometimes we have to be protected from ourselves.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why you have a financial advisor.
Right.
It's because you need that. Now, I'd like to talk just a little bit, we're running short here, but I'd like to talk about long-term care and nursing home expenses.
It's not something that anybody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to spend time in a nursing facility. Yet statistics tell us that 50% of people aged 65 or older will spend some time in a nursing facility. And what we have found, and the clients that I've dealt with that have had to deal with that, is that the cost of nursing facilities can decimate an estate faster than just about anything else. Here in California, you're going to see probably somewhere between $6,000 a month and up for 24-hour care nursing care. That's $72,000 a year. Are your assets in a position to be able to handle that, plus the spouse that's not in the nursing facility? And so nursing, protecting assets, there's some legal ways that you can protect assets from being attached by the nursing facility and pass those on to heirs if it's done legally in a proper order.
Well, this is just really a big pot of soup, if you will. It really is financial planning. And people need to go to you and have you help them out. Wow, let's give Dan a big round of applause for joining us today. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks, Patty. I appreciated the opportunity, and hopefully the viewers were able to find some information that can help them.
I'm sure they did. And thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next time.